to Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Thanks for being with us. Pat Gowan is alongside. Pat's one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Kent.
And Jim Schrader is here. Jim's the publisher of the Telegraph. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, guys.
Jim, Madison County Treasurer Kurt Prenzler has cashed in $41 million in bonds. He says those bonds were purchased illegally by his predecessor, and that's why he was cashing them in, to avoid any legal problems. However, the county took a loss of $360,000 by cashing those bonds in. Was Prenzler correct in his actions?
Some months ago, it was right after the election, I guess, Treasurer Prenzler came by with stacks of documents and papers and showing us the editorial board of the Telegraph, all kinds of documents pertaining to bond sales and how they mature, and how basically Madison County and most other counties, pardon me, never bond indebtedness, usually more than about 2 or 3 years in the future, sometimes 5. And he had discovered all of these bonds that had indeed been purchased while Treasurer Frank Miles was in office, that went out 12 to 15 years, and was trying to explain to us how on paper these bonds were already worth like $3.6 million loss on paper if he were to cash them in, but he didn't believe they were legal to hold, so he thought he was going to cash them in, but he was hoping that the bond market actually would improve a little bit so that that loss would... Very complex. I mean, you were talking about bonded indebtedness, and we talk about it all the time. The city is going to sell bonds, the state's going to sell bonds, some organization's going to sell bonds. Getting into those and trying to figure out how they work and how they pay and what the potential penalties would be if you sold them is mind-boggling. Said all that to say all this. At that point in time, Treasurer Prenzler said if he were to sell those bonds that day, and this was December, I guess, maybe January, there would be a paper loss of about $3.6 million. The interest rates actually went down, which improved the bond percentage rate, and he sold them last week with a paper loss of $360,000, his claim. Well, he saved the taxpayers 90% of the potential loss by his statement. The chair of the Madison County Board, Alan Dunstan, came out later and said that that wasn't right, that these bonds actually made money in this short amount of time that we owned them. I haven't seen the mathematical explanation of that one. I sort of understand the mathematical explanation that came from Treasurer Prenzler. It is a kind of a guideline for, as we understand it, for Madison County not to bond themselves into indebtedness 12 to 15 years into the future. Prenzler calls that illegal, and that's why he said he didn't want to hold on to them, and he sold them. I don't know that it's absolutely illegal, i.e. punishable under law, or if it's more of a guideline. It appears to me to be more of a guideline. But he didn't want to hold on to them, so he sold them. It appears that we have some warring factions already in Madison County, which we suspected. Mr. Prenzler being a Republican, and prior treasurers back to John Shimkus, I guess, being all Democrats in there. So there may be some warring factions there. If indeed the bonds had to be sold, which is up for debate, had to be sold, I guess losing $360,000 is much better or much preferable to losing $3.6 million. I'm not absolutely sure that anybody can prove to me by statute that the bonds absolutely had to be sold at this time.
Pat, was Treasurer Prenzler correct in selling these bonds? He claims they were illegal, and that's why he couldn't be holding on to them. However, it is a $360,000 loss on paper, as Jim points out, for the county.
Well, no, that's real loss now. It was on paper until he sold them. When he sold them, that became a real loss. He claimed the loss could have been much larger at an earlier point. This story is amazing on several levels. One of them is that Madison County's got $41 million to invest. That's $160 per man, woman, and child roughly in the county. That's a lot of money to just invest. One of my reporters and I sat down with a calculator and did a quick guesstimate of what that could earn, and we're guessing you're talking about interest in the range of $3,000 or more a day.
For the total
For the
41
total
million.
41 million,
Right.
which is an enormous amount of money. Now, he has said, Prenzler, that the rules of the office, that the guidelines required them not to invest in instruments out that far. Had to be a shorter term investment. He also, at the early part of his term, fired 2 investment advisors, 2 staff people from Frank Miles, his Democrat predecessor, over this. One of them says, I wrote the guidelines, and the guidelines say not to do this unless you've got the approval of the treasurer, and we did have it. It was a good deal for the county. And they're making this like, well, my house is worth less money on paper right now too. The real estate market's depressed. Hopefully by the time I need to sell the house, the value will be back up. But at the moment, if I had to sell the house, I would be getting less money than it used to be worth. That's sort of what's happened here, only Prenzler's picked the moment for reasons that seem to confuse Jim and certainly confuse me. He says, no, we've got to do this right now. And we're lucky it's only a loss of $360,000 because it could have been a loss of $3 million at one point. Well, it'll be like my selling my house today and saying, well, gosh, I'm only losing $50,000 value. A year ago, it would have been $150,000 I lost. What happens if I just wait until it's worth more? I don't understand the urgency. I don't understand the hit the taxpayers took over it. It's a great format for a political fight. Some people wonder, did Prenzler do this to justify the firing of the people who were Democrat employees from before? He said he criticized what they did, then he had to act upon it. It seems to me like, and I don't know Mr. Prenzler, but it seems like one of 2 things. He's either an awful lot smarter than the Democrats, or he's an awful lot dumber than the Democrats. And I don't know which it is. I can't figure it out because, as Jim points out, this is fairly complicated financial stuff, but I don't understand what made him decide in the moment he had to sell the bonds. There are experts on the outside who have said these are not particularly risky bonds. We shouldn't have to worry that much about losing money on them in the long term. The state investment guidelines essentially call for security first, liquidity second, and yield third. We want them to be safe, then we want them to be available. Well, they may not have been terribly available, or if they're available, I guess, if you're willing to cash them out at a loss, and now they're available again, he's gonna have to find something else to invest them in. We'll never know probably what the full value of those bonds would have been if they'd gone to maturity, but we'll always wonder, and we'll see what, I'm sure there'll be some eyes on watching the earnings on the same investment that his office makes when he puts them somewhere. I presume he's put them somewhere. I hope he's put them somewhere because you're talking about thousands of dollars a day in interest on that kind of money.
We need to take a break. We'll have more Metro Talk right after this.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a 4-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started and it can open so many doors for you.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
is Metro Talk. I'm Kent Shovel. Pat Gowan and Jim Schrader here. Pat, we're taping on Tuesday, and it appears that Governor Quinn is going to call the legislature back into a special session. If he does that, it costs $50,000 a day to have the lawmakers there, but he says that if he doesn't have them come in to take a vote, all of the road construction projects in Illinois may come to a halt as part of the new construction program related to bonds. Bottom line is, should lawmakers be called back to Springfield?
Well, can you think of a better way to spend $50,000 than to have our legislators in session an extra day? I for one, actually can. This controversy is almost as bad as the Madison County bond treasurer's controversy in that it's part of a $22 billion public works program. A lot of jobs, a lot of infrastructure repair depend upon the continuation of this program. The governor says, I can't spend any more money on it after June 30th because the fiscal year runs out and I won't have the authority to spend anymore. You got to come back and give me the authority to keep spending. You've approved the project. You just haven't approved, and the funding is in place. You just have to approve my writing the checks to pay for the work that goes on after that point. That seems awfully straightforward. The pushback from part of the legislature is, no, you've already got the authority. We've extended what they call the lapsed spending provision out through December. So as long as you're paying through December for work that may be done after June 30th, but that was authorized prior to that, you've got the authority to pay for that now. You don't need to call us back at special session. We can deal with it in the fall. So what is the real reason behind this? Well, Quinn's people say the lapsed spending thing is bogus, and there are some people who support it. There are some people who favor it. The Senate Democrats added to this bill about $430 in social spending that the governor apparently favors, and those who look for ulterior motives believe the governor is trying to get them back in session to shove that part of it through, never mind the capital spending. So there would be sort of a Trojan horse. The Trojan horse is the capital spending, but the social spending inside it is what he's really trying to achieve. The frustrating part, I think, for the taxpayers, while these games go on constantly, couldn't these games be contained within the regular legislative session where we're not spending $50,000 a day extra to try to decide who's right and who's wrong in what essentially amounts to brinksmanship? That's the frustrating part I see from the taxpayer's point of view. The claim is, by the way, that if the work stops, and I'm not sure how they calculate this, if the work stops, it's going to cost the state about $30 million and about $3 million a day in losses. So I would rather spend $50,000 a day than $3 million a day, but as a taxpayer, I don't think I'd prefer to spend either if I didn't have to.
Jim, should the legislature be called back to Springfield? It's going to cost about $50,000 a day, but Governor Quinn says that if they're not called back, if lawmakers don't approve the spending plan for the highway construction projects, work will have to come to a halt.
Well, Senate President Cullerton and Speaker of the House Madigan last week basically agreed to extend the session so we could kind of delay this kicking in of the additional $50,000 a day. I suspect much to the chagrin of the Senate and the House, as we tossed in an opinion piece over the weekend talking about getting things done in Springfield. Special sessions used to be the exception. They would happen every once in a while and they'd be very short, a day or two. Now they've become almost the rule, especially since Blagojevich took office. It became an every year thing or an every session thing. It seems to me that if you can only make $68,000 a year as a representative, and that's all you're going to make. But if you work a few days over, you get a per diem that you can more than eat and sleep on, plus you get paid more than your base salary because you're coming to work after Memorial Day. You want to talk about supplementing your income pretty quickly, plus all of your office people that for the most part are on staff year-round because you're paying them, out of your funds year-round. They get extra money too while you're in session. It seems like an income supplement. It's a way to double dip the system. As we've talked about before, the state of Illinois has some fairly well-paid representatives and senators when you compare other states. This seems to me to be a way to double dip the system. And if we drag our feet on purpose and go 4 or 5 days into the after Memorial Day, we can get an extra $5,000 or $6,000 in total added to our compensation. I would hate to think that we have come this far in Springfield, but maybe the additional funding should be, that's just part of your compensation. This is what you make, and if you get it done in 90 days or you get it done in 270 days, that's all you're gonna make. But it would be like me telling my boss at the factory, you know, I'm gonna go back behind the shed over there and take a nap, so I can't get my job done today of shoveling this stack of coal. And then tonight, because you need that coal, you'll put me on time and a half and pay me extra to shovel the coal because I was taking a nap for half the day.
They should basically be a salaried employee.
That's all they get. That's all they get. And if you get it done in the regular allotted time, that's wonderful. But if you didn't get it done because you were sleeping on the job, you don't get overtime to finish up what you should have finished in your regular shift.
You heard me talk before about New Hampshire. They pay their legislators $200. That's not per year, that's per session, that's for 2 years. $100 a year, no expenses.
And people standing in line to get the job.
Largest legislature in the United States. And it works.
We'll have more right after this.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the radio broadcasting program in WLCA with Mike Lemons.
Have you ever listened to your favorite radio station or your favorite disc jockey and say, you know, I could do that? Or maybe you're the type of person who says, I could never do something like that. Well, with the help of first-year mass comm student John, we're going to show you just how easy it is. Each voice intro starts with talking about the band that just played, and we add a station identifier. Next, you want to offer some information that may be of interest to your audience. And finally, tell the listeners what the next song is, who sings it, followed by another station identifier. John will do one live now.
Silver Sun Pickup substitution on WLCA. The Big Pink released their debut album called A Brief History of Love. The single is off that album. It's The Big Pink with Dominoes. It's on College Radio's Best 89.9.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
What's that? I don't know. Something I kind of made. Ooh, what's it do?
What do I do? Well, thanks for asking. I ring my bell and I like to dance. What do I do? Well, thanks for asking.
Ow! Yeah, it still needs a little work.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arch-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are here. Jim, the state's Grow Your Own program, which is designed to produce more teachers.
That's legalization of marijuana, right?
I thought they figured that down.
They said, no, we can't grow your own. Sorry.
Okay, we know where the panel's heads are now. It's designed to produce teachers for low-income areas. It has produced 43 graduates. Total cost of the program, $17 million. Has it been worth it?
Golly, I'll take that gig. I expect Pat to get his calculator out, but 43 into 17 million is a pretty expensive program. It would be wonderful, and I understand the basic thought process behind it. In the areas that have problems with supporting a tax base, supporting the school system, it's hard to get teachers that want to take positions there. They don't necessarily pay very well. The students aren't necessarily very well prepared. They may not have some of the niceties of a more affluent district. But the vast majority of those 43, even the 43 that the system has produced, will go in and basically do, and I hate to use the word indentured servitude, but it's similar, okay? They go and do their indentured servitude at that lower paying district and get out as soon as they can to go to a better paying district with some of the things that we've just talked about. It's a very expensive program, and this is from the same state that is not paying the school districts that we have now, which has led to teacher layoffs in every district in Madison County save one, save Collinsville. Every other district in Madison County has had to lay off teachers, in part due to the money that the state owes them. It sounds like a good thing, but $17 million to crank out 43 teachers when you're not paying the rest of your bills seems like a pretty expensive program.
Pat, $43 million, 17 teachers as part of Illinois' Grow Your Own program. Is it worth it?
Well, you got to look at the rest of it. The rest of it is they were told when this program started that it was going to take 5 or 6 years to start bearing fruit. There's $17 million spent on 43 people who finished the program in the first 5 years. They're the very first out. There are 350 more in the pipeline. So you're not dividing it by the 43. At this point, you're dividing it by about 400 with more to come. I'm not sitting here as a proponent necessarily. I'm just saying that it's an easy shot to look at this at that point. You know, it's like if it takes you a year to put in a new press at Jim's newspaper, you know, and in a year and a day they say, well, how much more money have we made from this press? We don't amortize the debt that way. That doesn't make any sense. So the criticism of this may be overplayed. Now, the idea of the program is that even areas that have trouble attracting teachers have partisans. The worst town in the world has people who like the town, who are invested in the town, who care about the town. The program's idea is, we'll train some of them to be teachers in their own community. They're already invested. We know they'll stay. They'll sign on for 5 years, but they care about the place. We'll get them trained, we'll get them up to speed, and they'll be natural teachers for the community. One of the failings of this program that hasn't gotten a lot of attention is there haven't been the jobs for the people who've come out the pipeline on the other end. As I understand, there were 3 of them at least trained for the Alton School District. Alton was only able to hire 1 of the 3. And as a result, the other 2 have gone to work for Missouri. We've trained them for a particular purpose in Illinois, and we didn't have a job for them at the other end. It seems like if there's not a job available, if you can't fund the hiring of people on the other end or somehow create the job with some certainty, that it seems futile to set them up only to have them have no place to go at the other end of it. So that's my criticism of what I can see of the program. I don't know if it ought to continue or not, but the planning of it needs to continue beyond graduation into the point where you can assimilate the graduates, or you've really wasted your money.
Jim, legislation is sitting on Governor Quinn's desk that would basically make it okay again to have bake sales. The Department of Public Health has been enforcing regulations that would limit the sale of home-cooked food. If Quinn signs this bill, the bake sales would be back in business. Should he go ahead and sign it?
When you try to figure what wisdom goes into the decisions made by government, sometimes you just sit back and shake your head and say, who was thinking what when they decided that the Cub Scout group can't sit in front of Walmart and sell brownies to raise money for a field trip? Or that it's okay for the band parents to have a chili cook-off to raise money so that the kids can go to the Rose Bowl parade, but you can't sell brownies at the same place where you made homemade chili. Okay? Is this confusing to anybody but me? You wonder, and I'm not aware that when the health department put these bans in place, that there had been a widespread E. coli breakout due to brownies being sold in front of Walmart. It seems to me that I hear of as many breakouts of our recalled products from grocery shelves that are being inspected by the FDA. You hear about butter being recalled. You hear about fruits and vegetables from time to time that are recalled. Entire stocks of canned meats and vegetables that are thrown away. Even drugs that supposedly have the utmost of standards from time to time are recalled. It doesn't make sense to me what led to the decision. It seems a smarter thing to allow them to reoccur. And like anybody else, you know, whether or not that little plate of brownies is worth the $5 that you give the Cub Scouts, that's kind of immaterial to me. If I want to give the Cub Scouts the $5 and I want to take the brownies and I'm concerned they might make me sick, I'll just throw them away. You know, if that's my concern. I don't know what led to the thought process that banned them. Finally, it seems to me it's going to be okay again, I guess, until somebody does get sick and tries to blame it on somebody.
Pat, there's legislation awaiting Governor Quinn's signature that would allow bake sales to resume in Illinois. Should he sign that bill?
If I eat the food from the bake sale, I am taking a chance. I'm gambling something. I'm doing so with my eyes open. The chances of losing anything substantial are infinitesimal if they exist at all. I've never heard of anybody dying from a bake sale cake. I've just never heard of it. Now, on the other side, the state condones my going into a casino where, as long as I do it regularly, I am guaranteed to lose. Mathematically, I cannot win as a regular gambler. You can prove it mathematically. It cannot happen. You can win and walk away and come away ahead, but no regular gambler can ever get ahead. The state condones that, encourages it. The difference is they also tax it. Maybe if bake sales provided more tax revenue, this wouldn't have been such a controversy.
If the state can make $1 a pack on a pack of cigarettes, maybe we give them $1 a plate for the brownies that we sell in front of them.
That's going to do it for this edition of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of The Telegraph, has been here, along with Pat Gowan, one of the editors of the Post-Dispatch. I'm Kent Scheffel. We'll see you next time.